T-Hub organized an engagement session with startup mentors who have been the pillar of strength for its innovation ecosystem since its inception. Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary of Industry, Commerce and IT departments of the Telangana government, addressed the gathering. Listen in.
I would also like to add my welcome to the welcome note given by Dr. Sriram. Very happy to see so many of you. I'll just take maybe about 10 minutes to share a few thoughts and perspectives. As many of you would know, Hyderabad is, while we have done a lot in the last 6 years or so to strengthen the innovation ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, Hyderabad, unfortunately, if you look at the popular perception or all the rankings, ratings, etc., it still doesn't appear in the top 3. And if you ask why is it, there are some shortcomings, some areas where we need to improve. One is that we do not have too many unicorns from here, which captures these days the public imagination. As you know, the speed at which new unicorns are coming up, the rate at which new unicorns are coming, and how of late they are becoming the poster boys of today's Indian economy, modern economy. Hyderabad has very little to contribute. Of course, Darwin Box is a big success story. Couple of startups who had roots in Hyderabad, which have become unicorns. They also owe definitely something to Hyderabad. But as compared to, let us say, Bangalore or a Gurgaon or a Pune, Bombay, we are we are behind. Even if we don't have too much to show in the unicorns bucket, even when it comes to attracting funding, just funding a different series, even early stage funding, various series rounds of fundings, we are much behind. We are actually, if you look at the funding, we are not in the top 3. We are not even in the top 5. We are below number 5, which of course has increased quite a lot. Not to suggest that we are stagnating. If you look at how it was six years ago, and how is it today, there is, I don't recall the exact numbers, but it is a huge jump, more than 150% or 170% or even more than that, etc. So on some of these conventional parameters, yardsticks, where people judge what is happening, which city is the happening city or the hotspot for innovation, we are not appearing. But as I said, you can only do this much and then hope for the results to come. One area where we really want to make a difference is the quality of incubation and acceleration which happens in this city. And I'm very sure that is very foundational. If this can be mastered, if this particular bucket we can really excel and become the most kind of sought after place for incubation and acceleration, rest of it will happen automatically. The kind of funding that we are expecting will happen. Some of the great startups will also become unicorn much easier, because see, while too much of hype is created about unicorn, my personal sense is that since the Indian market is so huge, if you have been able to identify a solution which meets the requirement of a large majority of that population, that startup is bound to become a unicorn. If it does not become a unicorn, something is very wrong with the founders or the team itself. So just the sheer size of the market pushes you to become a unicorn, and there's nothing much beyond it. So while I'm discarding this unicorn hype and I don't want to join that rat race, but other things about the kind of funding, etc., which goes, most importantly, social impact. Are you solving problems? Are you being talked about? Are you the go-to solution provider for any particular kind of felt need which large number of people face, the bottom of the pyramid kind of thing? I'll be more interested in getting those kind of results. But as I said, for the present discussion, I'll be extremely delighted if Hyderabad is today counted as one of the best support systems for incubation, for acceleration, for scaling up, etc. And we are quite ahead as far as other cities go when it comes to government supported institutions. As all of you know, the innovation ecosystem that has come up in Hyderabad, government has played a very large part, a very instrumental part in putting it there. This is very unlike other cities like Bangalore. In fact, if you go to Bangalore and ask people, the typical answer will be that we have risen here just because the government has stayed away from us. Not because the government did something, but the government did not do anything harmful, and therefore we are here. And right now, as of late, you must have seen, startup founders are actually lamenting the inaction of government. You must have seen what the founder of Khata book, isn't it? He wrote, and how it became some kind of a, different kind of political parties jumped into this conversation. But what the Khata book founder wrote is something which everyone talks about Bangalore. Even I don't want to, someone is recording. I don't think it will be appropriate to tell names. But yesterday, a very major kind of a poster boy of Bangalore was here in Hyderabad. He also told that we have solutions for everything in Bangalore, but no one is willing to listen to us. So, that is the truth. It's not that solutions are unsurmountable, nothing can be done, but no one has any interest to do anything. So, that is the kind of apathy which goes into Bangalore, etc. But in contrast, what you see here in Hyderabad, the kind of attention we provide in creating institutions. In fact, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when T-Hub was created, at that time, this was one of the very few very cool buildings in Hyderabad. Now, of course, many co-working spaces have come, which are equally attractive. But 6 years ago, many of you may not know this, but lots of people used to come here just to take pictures. And many of them will ask that is there some permission to be taken to go in and take pictures and all. And I would tell them that there is some, of course, some security access will be there. You are welcome to go and take pictures, but also try to understand what happens inside the building. Taking pictures is one part, you are welcome to take, but just understand what goes on. And many of the serious players then would understand what happens. And subsequently, what happens in T-Hub has been replicated in V-Hub, in T-Works, in Task, in Rich, and various other private incubators which are here, accelerators which are here. Government of India has created lots of incubators in their Government of India research institutions like CCMB, like IICT, and lots of universities, etc., have set up their own incubators, and T-Hub has become some kind of a role model for all of them. They try to replicate, and when they try to replicate, what happens? Again, we try to highlight to follow the process which goes on here. Getting a cool building with these kind of lamps and all is fine. You must have a atmosphere which attracts people, which motivates them to be more productive. But understand what happens here. And one of the key elements which we speak about very proudly is the kind of mentorship which is offered here. And V-Hub also, in fact, V-Hub succeeded T-Hub. And one of the things which V-Hub started with, while there are many things, many initiatives of theirs which are very unique, but one thing which they completely copied T-Hub was the mentoring process. Like V-Hub's, if you look at the solutions and the offerings that they have, this is something which is very, very up there, so to say. So in Hyderabad, as I said, what is going on is already very praiseworthy. No other city does it in such an organized way. As I said, in Bangalore, with which we compete, there things happen by themselves. There's no hidden hand which kind of navigates things to fall in place and things to become organized and structured. Unlike here, where the government is taking a very active interest. But at the same time, there are, in my opinion, quite a few things which we need to further look into and kind of strengthen our act together. Very recently, in fact, just a matter of a week ago, I attended the annual congress of the GEN. Some of you may know this. This is called the Global Entrepreneurship Network, GEN. GEN is a global body which actually works towards creating an enabling environment for startups across countries. They work with governments in creating good policies, good institutions, good infrastructure, and reducing barriers at different levels and so on and so forth. So they play more of an advocacy role. And every year they host a congress. This year it was hosted in Riyadh. So I was asked to represent India formally. I participated in that event. And I attended a session which was really very eye-opening. In fact, I myself had never thought on those lines all these days. And what I saw there, I in fact have not shared it with you, but I was very impressed with what I saw. So Jen had called a resource person. That lady actually is a member of Jen. She lives in Miami. I think she's a vice president or something in Jen. I have her contact details, and I had promised her that after I come back to Hyderabad, we'll get in touch. So we will do that very soon. The session that she took was to explain how all the interventions which an incubator or an accelerator or an ecosystem provides, how each intervention can be monitored for its impact. So when I say that great mentoring is provided, so I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago that I'm very happy about the great mentoring which is provided in T-Hub. I don't have any data-based or an evidence-based metric. This comment which I made is purely anecdotal because I meet lots of startups from T-Hub do well. Sometimes they come into a stage where they have to launch their product, or they get a round of funding, they want to celebrate, or otherwise also they have some solution which is relevant for the government, they want to pitch before us. And when they come and interact with us, and if they are from T-Hub or V-Hub or T-Works or any of this, when I use the word T-Hub, it's a term which encompasses the entire innovation ecosystem of the government. So they do mention that they've got great support in T-Hub. They could not have done so well but for getting into the T-Hub. So anecdotally, they are all very happy with the kind of services, the kind of support, facilitation they get here. But that session which I attended mentioned that each of these can be quantified. So if someone says that I offer great mentoring, what are the metrics to check that? And this lady who took that session, after her session I interacted with her and she offered to train us. And they have actually a kind of a template to measure everything. Every intervention, it's not just mentoring. Whatever else you also claim to do, everything can be measured. There are benchmarks and you can check. And you can even compare the performance of two mentors. Not that I want to do that, but possibly, theoretically, all those things are available. And it's a very dynamic kind of a template. It's not a template which is frozen in time. We also have to, because of experience, certain things of that template continue to move. But it's a very strong template. And I assured her that we will use it in Hyderabad. So we will speak about it later. But this is whether we introduce the template immediately or not. The point which I'm driving at is that let there be some outcome of this mentoring, which apart from anecdotal response that yes, this person was my guru and without him I would not have reached this far. But what else can you tell about him? How many hours? What was the outcome? Did it help you move from this problem point to that solution end? And so on and so forth. So that is something which we would like to introduce very quickly, and we need not wait for that lady from Miami to tell us how to do it. I mean, we ourselves can figure it out. And of course, no harm in taking inputs from her. If something of value comes from her, nothing wrong in imbibing that. The other thing which I want to mention is, in fact, I'm on the board of V-Hub as well, and in one of the board meetings I gave this suggestion. I gave two suggestions actually, which I want to tell here. The first suggestion which I told her, actually it is like a hospital. I gave the analogy of a hospital, a specialty hospital, when I was talking to the board members and the team at V-Hub. So one point which I made was that, see, different startups have different challenges. Someone is at a very, very early level. They don't even know whether the idea that they have will be accepted in the market. So they are at an idea validation state. So can we amongst ourselves, this large brilliant pool which is there, again like a hospital, someone becomes a neurologist, someone becomes a cardiologist. So can we ensure that someone specializes in very idea stage kind of validation? Thereafter, someone else may have some other issues. Someone may like to know what kind of technologies are suitable for this idea. So many of you are domain experts in technology. Can you be focused in that kind of a bucket? Similarly, someone else would like to know if there are government schemes under which I benefit. Someone specializes in understanding the range of government schemes which are there with national government, central state governments, etc. You may like to know, can corporates support your idea? So, as I said, different ways in which we can provide guidance and mentoring to them. So, like this, a hospital, can we ourselves push us into developing some kind of a specialization, apart from being a general mentor of having a broad understanding about the entire innovation process. And again, the second point which I made in V-Hub is again like that of a hospital. See, normally when you go to a good hospital for checkups, you may have some ailment, but it may require some cross-examination or cross-consultation with someone else also. So in good hospitals, this happens seamlessly. You may go to a general physician, but the physician may tell you that please talk to a, let us say, a nephrologist also. And he only will link you to that nephrologist. He only will ensure that your tests are done. And when the nephrologist checks you, he feeds his input back to your physician. He may then tell you that, okay, you see someone else for that matter, a cardiologist, for example. So it all happens quite seamlessly. So can we also have a system in which all this happens? And we use technology for that. It's not that someone has to physically run around carrying you to the nephrologist or the cardiologist. It's all done in an automated way. You can point out that I have guided him in this way, but now he wants to use a blockchain solution, and I'm not a blockchain expert, but in our pool this person is a blockchain expert, so can you tell him which is the best blockchain platform that he can use, and so on and so forth. So a seamless way in which, so this is what I told hubHyd, and they're working towards it. See, what I told was that our responsibility once a startup comes into our space is for the totality of his experiences. I cannot tell that as hubHyd, I'll only help you with this, rest of it you'll have to figure out yourself. If that is how you respond to startups, then you are a failure. I mean, every issue of his has to be your responsibility, and sometimes you may have to even go beyond your conventional call of duty. Suppose it actually happened. I mean, it's not a very pleasant example to give, but I can still give it because it's a recent example. As you know, we had very difficult second wave of COVID. While the third wave was okay, the first wave was okay, but the second wave was quite difficult. Many of us have personally experienced it. Many of the startups also, some of their members, some of their founders face challenges in tackling the second wave. And I know that, I don't know about this place, but in hubHyd, quite a few cases were helped in that way also, like getting access to a hospital bed. Because we are from the government, we do have some influence in these matters. So helping them with oxygen, and these were very critical moments. I mean, the intervention would have made a difference between life and death also. So it was, I don't have to tell you about second wave. So even beyond your call of duty, you cannot raise your hand saying that what is my role in this? This is not a startup, your innovation related issue, whether you get bed or not, but you can't be indifferent, or you can't be, completely aloof to these kind of things. So once someone is here, take care of him holistically. So as a mentor, as a team which represents hubHyd or the government before a startup, if there is anything which requires going beyond your call of duty, I'll be very happy if that happens, because these are things which don't happen in a Bangalore at all. These are things which don't happen in a Pune at all. See, as I said, the government is extremely apathetic in those cities. So as it is, there is nothing there. I don't think these kind of conversations would have ever happened in a Bangalore or in a Pune, etc. But since we do have this kind of a network where the government is very much an interested partner, a concerned partner, a caring partner. So make use of our presence. Many of these hubHyd startups, when they were looking at a go-to-market strategy, we have used our influence to help them access some markets which they would have just not been able to crack by themselves. Just because we have some leverage, we can twist their arms. We have some private companies have obligation towards us because they have received enormous help from us. And when we tell them that the startup has a solution which will fit very well with what you do, because of the obligation, they at least let them come and pitch. And many of the startups, because they have merit in their solution and product, they have been able to take it forward. So my suggestion is that I'm sure you have done a great job in mentoring, etc. But let us organize ourselves a little bit more. All the suggestions that I'm making, that first of all, there is a metric-based mentoring which helps us keep track, and we will introduce that. Either we will design those templates ourselves, or we will take help of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. Similarly, encourage amongst us to put ourselves into some specialist kind of a role, in a specialist kind of a hat, so that at the hubHyd itself, when some startups challenges become evident, we are able to guide them that you can go to this person or that person. Informally, I'm sure it is happening, not to say that we are sending people randomly here and there, but if it is done in a better way. And similarly, movement between one mentor to another to third, because as I said, challenges will be multiple. So instead of letting him find his own way and feel hassled and run around and waste his time and energy, this is one intervention which also could be great. One other suggestion is that all of us mentoring is always a two-way street. While we may think that we are guiding, we are kind of helping, we are the gurus, but whether we recognize it or not, we also learn quite a lot. The experience which the startup is going through also shapes our thinking, our perspectives. If everything goes well, we learn from that experience. Some of our own beliefs, our practices get strengthened, so that is a plus. Sometimes we miss out on something, which also is a learning which we use for the next possible occasion. So how can we use all these experiences in a collective way? While you benefited in this two-way kind of a process, is it possible for your experience to benefit everyone else? I mean, there could be a pool of 100 mentors here. In VHub, there could be some 30, 40, somewhere else there could be some more, all put together. In Hyderabad, I'm sure you know this by now, that we run what is called the whole of a city approach. Like anyone who is incubating anywhere or accelerating anywhere should have a standard set of support and practices and intervention. So I would like collective experiences of everyone to benefit everyone else. So how can we do that? Can we have some kind of a portal on which mentors post their kind of learnings, or can we organize these kind of meetups in which some of these speak, or can we create a blog in which people post occasionally? So again, something which I particularly feel will be very unique to a city like Hyderabad. And as I told you in the beginning, that in public perception and also in terms of some conventional kind of rankings, we are not figuring. But if we do these kind of things, our reputation amongst the actual stakeholders, the main stakeholders, the startup community, the entrepreneur community, that goes up like anything. And we don't want anything else more than that. If all the startups world over, or let us say within India, feel that the best incubation support happens in Hyderabad, that is far more than what our expectation will be. Even if we figure last in some ranking, it does not matter to us. So these are some of the thoughts which I wanted to share. And of course, as I said, I wanted to congratulate all of you, because anecdotally I receive very positive feedback of the kind of mentoring support startups get here, elsewhere. It's very kind of heartwarming when you hear all this. And little bit of kind of organizing our act, putting some structures, some kind of metrics in place will help us do even better. So these are some of the things which I wanted to share. Unfortunately, I'll not be able to be here for a very long time. I know that you are having this session till afternoon. I have to go to this Meridian Hotel nearby, where a training program is starting at 11. But what is the time now? It's 10:26. So I can spend maybe 10-15 more minutes, but beyond that I may not be able to spend time. But do brief me in the evening or later in the day. What was the general thinking? Anyone took any strong objection to what I said or something? Please let me know. But thanks a lot for interacting with you. Thank you.